Welcome to Inside the Force. I'm Greg Grunberg, a.k.a. Snap Wexley.
It is a period of Star Wars mania, as new movies, comic books, novels, and TV shows populate the system. Fueled by their love and passion for the galaxy far, far away, two exceptional geeks tap into hundreds of holocrons in order to bring you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. Come and join them as they go inside the Force.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Force podcast, talking about all that stuff from the galaxy far, far away. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back. We are diving into the latest Star Wars news, as well as giving you the latest review of the most recent episode of Star Wars Rebels through Imperial eyes. Very, very intriguing episode. As we bring back some of the Empire's most sinister, and as well as an old character that we'll talk about.
Yes.
That's been around for a long time that you may not know too much about. All right, so, and then of course, whatever the latest news is and all those different mediums, man, we're covering them all. All right, so latest news, Case.
Well, actually isn't very much.
No.
Now that you said all that.
Well, that's just a preview,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Especially really in the movies, not too much going on. So I'm just looking through here. No, a friend of mine, Cody Geiler, he likes to visit the Reddit forums a lot, and he'll sometimes spit off the most recent Reddit rumor regarding the films. But there's a lot of rumors going around regarding Benicio del Toro's role. I don't know if you've read some of them. I'm not gonna talk about it, but just let everybody know. There's so many rumors right now. Do not get fooled by them, especially if they're coming from Reddit. But really, officially, there's no news. We talked about last week, Han Solo starting their production. Mm-hmm. That image was released, but this week, nothing additional to that. It's mostly been about Battlefront and Celebration and Rebels, all that kind of stuff. So, movies, pretty good on the movie side.
Yeah, we are, if you're counting at home, we are 288 days from Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Of course, like you said, nothing, no news, no word about any trailers. Mm-hmm. I'm still, again, just guessing that we'll see something at Celebration, and people, it'll get released while we're at Celebration, probably. So, So you got a little over a month to. What day are we leaving? Is it the 12th? The 13th?
Wednesday
is it 13th?
is the 13th.
13th?
Yeah.
14th, 15th? No.
Wednesday's got to be the 13th.
Wednesday's 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, right?
13th
so
is the
12th.
Thursday, so 12th, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the 12th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yesterday was 6 weeks. So this time 6 weeks from now we'll be
we'll be there. We'll be staying all night outside the
convention
convention center waiting for the Last Jedi panel.
Correct. So we'll definitely talk a lot about Celebration here in the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess in the TV world, Rebels. We'll talk about Rebels here through Imperial eyes, which was moving on from what has happened with Sabine and the Mandalorians. We are back to discovering what Thrawn has been up to, and watching Star Wars, the Star Wars show, or not Star Wars show, sorry, Rebels Recon. Mm-hmm. It was funny hearing that Filoni mentioned how they had talked about doing the entire episode from that point of view.
Man.
Which would have been really weird.
Yes, it would have. I don't know if I would have liked it or not.
I don't think so either.
It would have been very interesting.
So they
Hard to pull
instead they just did the first scene basically,
which was cool.
Which was cool. It's funny how they also talk about how, he's waking up, but he's still in his clothes.
Yeah.
They don't have the money to give him any new outfit.
Which again, it's still so surprising, but very understandable. Like regarding budget and animation shows and how they can do certain things and certain textures, like not in the budget, can't do a cape because it's not in the budget, that kind of thing. Like it's
and you would
think about.
Yeah, you would think like, come on, it's Disney. I mean, is it like $10,000 to do another outfit? Come on, man. It's not like it's not like $1 million or something like that. But whatever, they're following the budget. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So anyway, very interesting episode. Not many characters in there really. Ezra's Ezra gets intentionally caught in order to warn him that his cover as Fulcrum is kind of in jeopardy. So, but things happen, and in the end, basically, he decides to hang back and try to frame somebody else to cover his tracks. So, what do you think overall of this episode?
Well, I liked it very much. So it was very like an espionage kind of that very secretive spy type of Star Wars episode, which was great. Thrawn, he's getting there. He's getting more involved now into the show. I can definitely see them. What we've been seeing in the previews, that Thrawn is getting more formidable and figuring things out more, and his strategy and the way he just kind of knows about what's all going on. It's coming out here because it's all about finding Fulcrum. The Empire trying to figure out who Fulcrum is, the mole, the leak in the Imperial ranks, and Thrawn is getting pretty close throughout the whole episode.
Yeah.
And then some crazy stuff happens. I thought this episode, Kallus would finally leave the Empire and join the Rebels. I thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that didn't happen either.
Yeah.
Or I thought Kallus was going to be.
Oh yeah. But there was an option C, which actually doesn't seem to be coming out at the end. Leads us to think that's not going to work out eventually. But I don't think he will make it in the end of the show. In this season, I don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised either. He's definitely taking a lot of chances, especially with Thrawn. Mm-hmm. Basically, obviously, it's kind of knowing who it is.
Yes.
He's figured it out. Also, this episode introduced us again to a familiar character, Colonel Yularen.
Yes.
Who was in the original Star Wars movie, Star Wars A New Hope, back in 1977. Just sitting around that Imperial, that famous scene now, in a sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, not necessarily famous, but very
well. Now it's giving
important scene.
Now it's giving a lot of context,
totally
regarding Rogue One.
Exactly, with all the heads of the Empire in there. Now his role has been somewhat. I feel like for a long time his role has been very kind of gray because he is in that white tunic.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to figure out, is he an admiral? Is he a general? He's a colonel, but what is he a colonel of? Is is he a colonel of the Navy? Is he colonel of the Army or so, but he has been, if you remember him, he was in Clone Wars as a younger version of him, obviously.
Yeah.
Voiced by Tom Kane.
Yes.
And it's funny because in Rebels Recon, they showed a picture of him from Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember him looking like that.
Well, it's the animation is so different. The style, it's much more sculpted, and like I do remember the style of it, but yeah, it's much more different than I thought it was.
But the image of him, because apparently he was in the early first season.
Yeah.
But in the later seasons, towards the end of the war, I guess, like he changed a lot.
Like, yeah,
Do you know?
that's,
You seen?
Yeah,
because the
and
image they
it's in here,
showed
too. Actually, I think I came across it in here.
But he changed a lot in Clone Wars, because when they showed the image of him, I was very taken back by what he looked like, and thinking like, okay, well, that doesn't look like the guy I remember. But I don't remember so much the later episodes of Clone Wars. So there's an image of him that's really different. So, but anyway, he was in the Clone Wars. He obviously makes it through, and then now we see him in Rebels here as this kind of the guy, what he looks like in Episode 4. But what he is he's Colonel of the ISB division, correct?
Yes.
Basically an investigative officer that searches for problems, moles.
It's basically the Imperial CIA.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good description there. So, but that was really cool to see him in there. And it's funny because if you play Star Wars the card game, also he's like a pretty interesting card.
It's a card. One you should have. If
Yeah, you got like move damage everywhere. It's like it's funny. But I was really cool to see that, because I think he's one of those characters that most really big Star Wars fans know him. Got to know him a little bit more in the Clone Wars, basically mainly because he was with the Jedi. I mean, he was obviously on what he thought was the good side, and now he's become.
He's just one of those great examples of Republic officer becoming an Imperial officer, and the same thing with Tarkin. He was the exact same way.
Correct.
It's just again, you stop and think about that these guys, I guess, of their own will, that they understand that the transition from the Republic to the Empire. Like, it's not like everybody thinks like, why could he serve the Empire serving the Republic? Well, I mean, because to him it's the better choice. To him, that transition is what the galaxy needed. Not that he is an evil guy himself, but that he believed that the Empire was the answer to the corruption that was said to become of the Republic. So he's definitely an interesting character that I would love to know more of. I mean, hopefully we'll get to see more of him in this, either this season or next season of Rebels, or just in a book or something. But I think there is some more stories to tell with Yularen. He's such a good character.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this picture of him up here from Recon, because he does not. I'll show you, because it's fairly what I'm talking about there. Yeah, so this picture, that's him apparently towards the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's much,
and that doesn't look like the guy. The kind of
much more dramatic looking.
Is that him in there? Yeah. Okay. But this is years later, or a couple years, just a couple. But as opposed to, I'm sorry you guys aren't seeing this. As opposed to that's what he is at the start of the Clone Wars.
Yeah. And
then he changes to that, which he just gets gray and old really fast.
More ages you, I guess.
Because when I saw that image of him, I'm like, wait a minute, was the guy that I'm thinking that Tom Kane was that not Yularen?
Yeah.
But it was. So it's all the same guy. But he hasn't, because he hasn't gotten his white stuff, his white suit here yet.
Which I guess doesn't really mean anything if you have a white tunic.
Apparently not.
Maybe it's just like,
do you want white or gray?
Yeah, like
white or gray.
Like your navy blues, like for our men and women who serve us in the United States, like they have their more formal navy blues or their camo, whatever. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's something like that, like just different, more formal wear.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, obviously Krennic, had white.
Because we had the same question, like, was Krennic going to be an admiral or what?
Or or was it just ISB? But he wasn't.
True. Yeah.
So he was part of the weapons division. You know, I don't. You know, it's just I guess it just depends on personal preference. Maybe I guess I don't know. You get to choose. What goes better with your skin?
Yeah.
White or
That's
gray?
good. You're good in white.
I'd go gray. I'd probably choose gray.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was a interesting episode. Obviously, got us closer to the end, which is coming in I think 4 or 5 episodes, and Thrawn is unleashing his wrath now, knowing pretty much he's narrowed down where the base could be.
Yeah.
He's obviously going to find out. So after the episode aired, there was a preview for next week. And we again saw an interesting shot, which was Kenobi
Yes.
and Maul.
Yes.
Not just in separate shots, but in 1-2
Yeah.
shot.
Getting ready for a battle.
But I don't think that's next week's episode.
No.
I think it's coming
Yeah.
still, but
There's a clip for next week's episode.
Yeah.
With Mon Mothma.
yes, Mom Mothma's in this episode. Which, and if you've seen the preview, it's really neat because she's talking about finally the alliance, forming the alliance, putting together all of these rebel cells, and and formulating obviously a more organized rebellion. So pretty neat. It sounds like, according to that scene too, which is interesting, is that she's basically spoken up against the emperor, and now has to be basically put in hiding. Like she can't show up anymore anywhere. Unlike Bail Organa, who is kind of secretly still supporting the rebellion, she's openly leading the rebellion, and now kind of having to be, hidden and protected. So that's what they're willing to do. At least this seems like what the Ghost is doing.
Yeah. And some big meeting going on, I guess, in the next episode to discuss the alliance.
Yes.
Very exciting. Very exciting times.
Very exciting. So that's next week. Again, we're getting brand new episodes every Saturday until the season ends here. I think a week or two before Celebration, actually. So I think there's only four more weeks of episodes, because I think the last one's an hour long. So keep watching that, and we'll keep bringing you our thoughts about that. Okay, let's see. That's Rebels. I did want to ask. Oh man, I had it and I forgot. What was I going to ask? Rebels. It was about Rebels. It'll come to me. Okay, so next, really, we're still in the middle. No really novel news. I started Aftermath.
Yeah.
The first book of the Aftermath trilogy. I'm about a fourth of the way through. I think there's 40 chapters. I think I'm on 12 or something like that, 12 or 13. You started Life Debt?
Started Life Debt. I'm almost through the second chapter, which actually is a long chapter, but like 25 pages. Yeah,
there was one chapter in Aftermath that was an hour, like 56 minutes.
It's a long read.
Which is a long way. But just preliminary thoughts about it. I like it. I'm not totally in love with it yet. It's getting better, but the first part has really been scattered all over the place.
Yes.
And
yeah, it was.
A lot of new characters introduced, and not really what I would expect from a book taking place shortly after Return of the Jedi. It does focus on Wedge a little bit.
Yeah.
And it does focus on Snap Wexley's mother, Nora, who was in the Y-Wing that went into the second Death Star. So all those people that wonder who those people are, that's Snap Lexi's mother. So I'm still in that point where I'm wishing that it was more about Leia and Han and Luke, but it's not. So obviously I'll push through it and see how it ends. But now Life Dead is more about Han and Chewie, I think.
I think it's going to be, yes. It's mostly about
them liberating
Kashyyyk.
Kashyyyk, right?
So I mean, I really can't say much. I haven't read too much into it to form a hard opinion. But it started off Han and Leia, but then past 10 pages or so, it's kind of actually picking up with the characters that you will come to read about in Aftermath. It's picking up from them, and actually something kind of interesting is happening. A little bit of a twist, but again, it's early, so I can't really say too much about it just yet. It's good so far.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's see what I wanted to mention. I did want to shift a little bit to Celebration.
Yeah. A few things happened. A few things were released about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of it seems like some people are picking up more on the potential that George Lucas could be at Celebration. There's just been some opinions about this, but you heard it from us last week. We already said it.
Yeah.
So this is old news.
Yeah.
We said that already. Really, the big stuff that happened was what was talked about in the Star Wars show, that EA is going to have a presence at Celebration. Most likely, this will involve Battlefront 2 and some of their mobile games. You would think they would talk about the new DICE game that was teased, new EA game that was teased a while back. That's kind of like in the...
That's the virtual. Is the virtual one?
I don't think so. This is like kind of that looks like Uncharted in a way, where it's like they had that rendering of that guy walking out of.
Yeah, but I think that's also there's a VR version of that.
Oh, really?
Where
Okay.
you're actually
okay.
You could walk around. They've been testing. I think that's the same game.
I'm sure they'll have it there or something like that. But there'll be a lot of stuff with EA and games, and at Celebration we might get a trailer for Battlefront 2. Is one of the
You think
things.
Battlefront 2 is going to be Clone Wars?
No,
You don't?
no. I think they're talking about it actually including some of the sequel trilogy stuff. Well, I mean, it basically says
Maybe
that
it'll be Force Awakens stuff. It'll be like
Force Awakens and
oh yeah, that's right. It's going to be like First
Yeah.
Order stuff, right?
Probably.
like Kylo and
probably more of those
Ray.
characters, because one of the guys part of EA involved with the game is saying how they are now able to include some of these new characters, mainly because now they have been created and they're available for them to be used, which pretty much means Force Awakens and maybe even Last Jedi, if there's anybody like maybe as a downloadable content after the movie comes out. But I mean, I think it actually could include Rebels in a way, that era. That'd be kind of cool.
oh yeah, they should now, of course.
Like Saw Gerrera.
Saul,
That
yeah.
would be awesome. But no, I think mainly it means the sequel trilogy era, which would be cool. More maybe Jakku, more Resistance kind of stuff. First Order stuff.
Wouldn't you want the Clone Wars?
I think so. I think they'll get there.
You imagine how many locations you could have?
Yeah.
I mean, dang, that's all you could have.
Fight on Mon Calamari, Mon
like
Cala.
3 dozen worlds.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that'd be
like
kinda cool.
easily.
Imagine fighting on a water planet, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like water.
That would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I would. That's what I would want in Battlefront. Because then they do that in one of the Battlefronts, the old games. That wasn't it based on Clone Wars?
Yes, because it took you through the era. It was more of
Yeah.
a campaign. So both of them kind of did that, and you fought on Camino
Yes.
as a clone trooper. Then you would fight on the Death Star as a stormtrooper. It would take you through all the eras.
See, they need to do that.
There have been talks that the Battlefront 2 will have a campaign involved, but it is going to be it's been said it will be bigger, more immersive.
Mm-hmm.
Of I guess more maps and just all that cool stuff.
So EA is doing a whole
Yeah,
floor there.
they're a whole big thing.
Yeah, so
So we'll see it, and we'll report to you what we find.
I will. We will. Lots of pics
Yeah, picks and vids.
Pics and vids. Also, they announced, as in Star Wars announced, more actors and creators heading to Celebration on the short list here. Ray Park, Peter Mayhew, Daniel Logan, Taylor Gray, who plays Ezra Bridger, Brian Herring, who's BB-8, Angus McGinnis, who was Gold Leader, Clive Revell, Tim Rose, Paul Blake, Jimmy V, and then of course they are already they're added to the already list of Felicity Jones, Ian McDermott, Deep Roy, Jeremy Bulloch, Brian Herring, and David Barclay, who are the last two guys I've mentioned are puppeteers. Deep Roy, I think I mentioned it last year when I talked about Celebration. I had to have, because not last year, 2 years ago, Anaheim. We actually hung out with Deep Roy for a little while, and he's a good great guy. So hope to run into him down there. So yeah, you said back to the books. You said you read that excerpt from.
That's right. Yes.
Thrawn.
Yeah, there was a Thrawn excerpt released, and there was a short story that is a tie-in to Bloodline involving Greer, which I did not get to read that one. I will. This is the most recent Insider, but you can read it for free on StarWars.com at the moment, at least. But yeah, I read an excerpt from Thrawn, and it's pretty cool. All it is, essentially, the excerpt was a dialogue between Thrawn and Emperor. Like there's, I guess, some kind of meeting. Thrawn and another captain, I think is what it was, is talking with Emperor about something, and kind of this is the first encounter with Thrawn and the Emperor. He's kind of introducing himself in a way and trying to convince Emperor of his own value, how he can be an asset to the Empire. And Thrawn's talking about how he can offer information, strategy, that kind of stuff. The very end of it, though, is kind of cool. People are talking about this, is how Thrawn knows of Anakin Skywalker. Apparently he has either heard of him or met him. Actually, no, he has definitely met him, because that's what the reference is. It's like Thrawn is telling the Emperor, now, I'm something that you can trust. I can provide all this stuff. I can, serve my legions as something that you should, take into account and use, and if you don't, basically saying, if you don't believe me, ask your servant. He can vouch for me, and Palpatine's thinking he's talking about the captain in the room, whatever, and Thrawn says, no, not him. I'm talking about Anakin Skywalker, and it kind of ends there. But it's interesting because let me just kind of read the quick quote here thing, because how he references it almost leads to another kind of revelation. It says, basically, yeah, so perhaps your servant can speak to the strength of that vow, basically that he's legit. Emperor says, my servant, and Thrawn says, no, I do not refer to Captain Park. I speak of another. Perhaps I assumed incorrectly that he was your servant, yet he always spoke highly of Chancellor Palpatine. The Emperor leaned forward a little, his yellowish eyes glittering, and his name? Skywalker, Thrawn said, Anakin Skywalker. Now, that leads me to believe that, I guess not necessarily, but I kind of think that Thrawn might know Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. This kind of...
Well, at this point, he has to. He has to be Vader.
He's Vader, but Thrawn, I think, kind of knows that Vader is Skywalker.
Yeah, I think that clearly says it.
Yeah,
I think that's what it may be.
This is definitely talking about he definitely thought that he was because of how Anakin spoke of Palpatine during the Clone Wars.
Oh,
but I think there's some room there to think that he also knows that Vader is Anakin. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but that would be kind of cool if he kind of deduced that. But nonetheless, somewhere during the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker and Thrawn met. When Thrawn was not for the Empire, he might have been on Chiss, or he might have been an officer.
Wait, you're coming to that conclusion?
Well, it is. That's because he says, he always spoke highly of Chancellor Palpatine. Like Thrawn has,
yeah, because he
encountered
obviously
Anakin Skywalker and they enough to where they talked about Palpatine.
So he was part of the Republic.
I guess somehow he was involved with the Jedi during the Clone Wars.
Man,
Like that's that changes a lot.
It does change a lot.
I want that story too. Like that. Man, I hope that's a flashback in the book or something. There.
Well, I think we'll find out. I think he'll span.
Yeah.
Sounds like it spans a lot.
Yeah.
Of time, unless he does just talk about memories.
Very excited for this, man. This comes out in April.
Yeah, I have a feeling
April 11th.
I'm flowing pretty good through Aftermath right now. I could get through all 3 books possibly by Celebration.
They're really talking a lot about how Empire's End, it just kind of, like Jakku is big in it, and there's
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
a lot of big things happen. Like, this is actually a pretty important book trilogy. Kind of what I said a while back about how the books really don't add a whole lot. Well, they said at this point haven't. Well, they are now. Like Aftermath trilogy, it's adding a lot.
Yeah,
and spinning off to a lot of.
I think
cool
Bloodline
things.
added a lot.
Bloodline does too. Yeah,
I think Bloodline changes your perspective fully of Princess Leia after Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. Because in The Force Awakens, when obviously when you see it without knowing these novels and you're just going from Return of the Jedi to Force Awakens, I mean, there's just a big. I mean, it almost feels like even though they seem like they beat the Empire, it seems like Leia's role never changed. Like she's General Leia now, and she's still fighting a war. But you find out, I mean, she was very political in those years. For 20 years after Return of the Jedi, she, to the point where people wanted to nominate her as basically the Chancellor, right, of the galaxy.
Always thought it already happened. Like, they would have made her Chancellor at some point. Mon Mothma, then maybe Leia.
Well, you knew Mothma was going to take over,
and
then eventually Leia possibly. But she, she had other thoughts and felt the terror that was still out there. But, what was surprising most about Bloodline 2 was how much the Vader lineage affected her and affected how everybody viewed her. And I'm getting that, I read a little bit of that in Aftermath too, where I just got through a chapter where the remnants of the admirals and stuff and lieutenants and whatever of the Navy are all gathered around talking, and they start talking and mentioning a little bit about how they all think or know about the rumors that Palpatine was a Sith, and how they think he used the dark side. They don't even really know what the dark side is. It's like and that does make you think about, or it does bring you back down to reality in a sense that that it was such a. The galaxy is so huge. I mean, it's hard for us to fathom because obviously we don't travel. We don't have planetary travel. So we think of our world, our Earth, quite large. But so you got to think like we don't know. Like right now, think about it. We don't know what's happening in China. We can read some news every once in a while, but we don't know how their government's acting right now, working right now, or who's the leader and what his. What he does out of the office. Yeah. So think about it. No one in that galaxy of Star Wars had any idea that Palpatine was a dark Sith Lord. It's like no one knows that. No one knows who Vader is. We have the luxury. It's a different perspective because we know. But just think if you sat down, I mean, literally had no idea, and you just popped in now, of course. I mean, you pop in. I guess it is kind of that sense in '77 because I can't remember quite when. Was it on his? It was on Vader's. Was it on Vader's packaging that he was Dark Lord of the Sith or something like that?
Yeah, because I think that's the first mention of Sith.
Sith, right?
Yeah, it was merchandise.
But there's no real mention that Palpatine was technically a Sith.
No.
I mean, he was just Emperor Palpatine and his master.
Yeah, he used the Force Yeah, and that's all.
That was really it,
and
right?
Jedi
There was no
figured that out.
explanation of it. So if you think about it, I mean, when you first watched the original trilogy all those years ago, you're kind of discovering who they are, but you're discovering it obviously this way. But if you're in that world, it's like they don't know. No one else knows that.
Yeah.
So that's why it's interesting now when you're getting in these books after Return of the Jedi, even in Bloodline, and even in The Force Awakens, in a sense that, I mean, all this talk about the Force and Jedi and Sith, I mean, people just thought it wasn't real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so weird to think of that because it's such a huge contrast to what the EU was.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of the Force. There was more Jedi. There was academies.
Mm-hmm.
It brought back all that stuff in the EU, whereas what it looks like in this new trilogy, Jedis are still kind of a myth.
It's honestly, in the current canon, I feel like the galaxy of the universe is much darker, much more bleak, it's much more of a wasteland of a galaxy than EU. Because, yeah, like you said, EU after the Jedi, Return of the Jedi, was, things kind of start flourishing again. Like you had all this, just everything, like Palpatine,
freedom.
Yeah, freedom. Leia and the original characters, they were just touted as heroes, and they were kind of treated as such. And Luke had his academies, all this stuff, and he married, had kids, and Han and Leia had 3 kids. And so it's all. There was still definitely conflict along the way, but no, I mean,
but not like Sith and
yeah, I mean, it's.
I guess you had a little bit of that maybe, but
but in this canon, it's. You didn't have.
Well, in this canon, what's interesting is you have half of the government, of the politicians, wanting the Empire back.
They're still fighting. Like they're still it's like.
But they like the ideals of the Empire.
Exactly.
They necessarily didn't agree with Palpatine. Mm-hmm. They did, but they didn't. Not his ruthlessness in a sense. But they were really behind the idea of this military might. And if you really think about it, because I've been really thinking about it. Because of Bloodline, I mean, it's like it's true in a sense that if you took the evil or the I guess this the hatred or sinisterness of certain people in the government, and honestly, if you took the Death Star away, in a sense, right, took fear out of it, right, if you just had military might, it probably would have worked.
Yeah,
I mean, just saying, I mean, I think the Death Star, the ruling by fear, is what really sparked a rebellion, right?
Yeah.
But if Palpatine, if people believed, if everybody, it's unfortunately after the Jedi were wiped out, if everybody believed that Palpatine stood up there and said, "Look, we need, a built up Imperial Navy or an army of stormtroopers to stop a possible another secession or an outside entity that would come in and threaten our government. That's why we need all this. A big more Star Destroyers. Death Star might have went too far, but it could have worked. And I mean, I don't know if you might have had some people still against it, but I don't know. No, it's interesting to think of it like that because that's what I'm reading a lot of in Bloodline and Aftermath. It's like these people are so we're really behind the ideals, and they even mentioned it in this roundtable how one of the people in there were saying how that if with there's like just we're talking about fighting back the New Republic, but and causing violent war and killing and warring is and aren't we the one? Like she was saying, like, aren't we the ones that built the Death Star?
Yeah.
Aren't we the ones that why would anybody want to follow our ideals anymore?
Yeah.
So it's like,
no, they definitely like. There's an element of that where they recognize their own faults. Sloane, well, now she's Admiral,
and she's becoming a big character.
She's huge.
In the
Yeah,
EU.
this trilogy is huge for her. But she acknowledges
She was in A New Dawn.
Yeah, she would not have done the Death Star. Like she think that was essentially their downfall.
Yes.
Like, she's all about empire and ruling the galaxy and control. Like she wants that power for even herself. But Death Star she thinks was a bad idea. And but she's a total Imperial proponent, and it's just so interesting. Like these books have made me realize way more so than the previous EU of like getting actually behind the ideals of the Empire, like actually understanding and believing and saying like, yes, I totally get why everybody was behind the Empire. It was always just assumed that they just followed it because they were evil and they ruled by fear. And it's like, well, I'm going to follow it or else I'm going to die. And there was an element of that definitely in the Outer Rim, but the core worlds, like they all just were behind it. They're all like, yeah, this is fine. We're cool. This is all good.
That's right.
Empire, yeah, do what you got to do to keep us safe. So that's what's great about this new canon is that it's much more believable, but it's making the world out to be a much more complex, or the galaxy much more complex and bleak and dangerous kind of place to live because everybody's falling behind this idea of an empire and agreeing with what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
But it's interesting too that they kind of talk about it in this too, where it's been whatever 5 or 6 months after Return of the Jedi, and I mean if you think about it, the New Republic, their army now is the rebels. Like they don't have military might necessarily. They have a fleet and they have some rebel soldiers.
Yeah.
But the Empire, I mean, obviously a lot of them died on the second Death Star, but the Empire are the ones with the Star Destroyers and the Stormtroopers and all these people. So it's like, that's what they were kind of talking about. I was like, we still have an army. We still have, we just need to know where to attack and how to attack. It's like, they, and the New Republic technically doesn't really have a defense. They have no Jedi. They have no, army anymore, no clone army or anything like that. So it's like, it's really, they're at this point to me they're pretty vulnerable, and I don't know technically. We'll figure it out when we get to Empire's End what truly happens at the Battle of Jakku, but that it takes a year for them to actually stop the Empire. It seems like, which in the end they didn't because it ends up rising up as the First Order. So it's like, so it is interesting, and it's true on that book of the cover on Aftermath, where I mean, it literally says the war is not over. They're still fighting it.
Which again, the new canon, like you never got that idea. Or I thought that was that would have happened in the old canon, because old canon immediately following the original trilogy was the Thrawn trilogy. I mean, so he had some fight back with some Imperial entity,
and that was 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly, 5 years later. So, and then a couple moments throughout the old canon too, like they would come back a little bit, but the Empire basically just kind of went off and they just signed a treaty, and that's it. They kind of assimilated into the Republic, as a different like party, you can say, like political party.
The new canon,
no, the old canon. It was kind of like that. It was, but they didn't reach, they weren't unheard. Like in the new canon, they all retreated to the unknown regions of space, and they were never heard of. Everybody, it was like rumors, like Bloodline. They talk about like there's still rumors about this Imperial fleet that went into hiding. Like, where are they? No one still knows where they are. At least the populace don't know. Centrists, they know, but
yes.
And then they came back as First Order. So it's just crazy that the new canon can't shake that idea and that threat of an empire, of imperial force, of ruling by fear. It's like that's still infecting the entire galaxy, whereas the old canon, it was kind of done away with, and the biggest threat was the Yuuzhan Vong. But new canon's very much the empire still, even 30 years after.
It's awesome.
It is awesome, man.
It's a lot of stuff, man. It's a lot of stuff. And the fact that we know a lot about it is pretty crazy. Anyway. real quick, we mentioned Deep Roy. If you don't know who Deep Roy is, look him up on IMDb. He's kind of the short actor that's been in a ton of stuff. I mean, a ton of movies. He was, but his Star Wars connection, he was in Return of the Jedi as Droopy McCool.
Yeah.
Part of Jabba's band that, the Max Rebo band, right?
Rebo, yeah.
Playing at Jabba's palace. He's the, I don't even know what the heck he looks like. What the heck is that?
What is he? Let me look at his species.
It's but it's the guy playing the clarinet looking instrument.
Let's see.
I mean,
he played the
he's like a pig kind of thing.
Chindinkalu flute of
yeah.
the Max Rebo band.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get his species here.
But it kind of looks like a dog standing up with no ears. I mean, or no eyes either.
Yeah, it's got a big old, I guess, nose. Just a
big nose. Yeah. Or is that his eyes?
I don't know. He's a Ketonak.
Ketonak? Weird. Huh.
Of the planet Kurdu 3.
Sweet.
It's an Outer Rim territory.
Anyway, Droopy McCool. He's cool. That's weird because I actually know a guy. His name is Chance McCool.
Chance, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so what else we got? Is that, I think that's all weird. Well,
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, interesting on the ITF poll I put out this past week. Some people responded, and it was real quick. I mentioned the toy thing because of this. Hasbro announced they will be releasing, and I think it's right before Celebration or during. It might be during Celebration, but Hasbro is releasing the original. They're re-releasing the original 12 characters. The very first 12 characters that Kenner put out in '76 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was a thing where I think you did like the mail thing.
Yeah, it was
thing, right?
kind of it
was a gimmick,
cheap,
right?
Yeah, it's kind of a gimmick. Like you got the backing
yes.
of all them standing there, and like for a long time, that's all people got. I think because like they like I want the toy, the actual toys. Like give me the toys, but no, that's all they could get was this like picture of them. And like, but then then suddenly they released the actual toys, and that's all you had for a while.
And it was just those 12.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can sit or name all 12, but I think you can figure out most of them. There was odd ones in there, like a Tusken Raider, Death Star operator. Mm-hmm. But you had obviously your normal characters in episode 4. But they're re-releasing them in the Black Series, the 6-inch tall Black Series characters with the original backings. Mm-hmm. They look awesome.
Pretty cool. That's clever.
I mean, and they're doing the
same
set
card
thing
back
kind of thing.
So like the guys who grew up with the original trilogy and who remember the original set, like I know a guy, Andy Smith, who's been on the show. I'm sure he remembers that, and then I want to ask his opinion and see if he's heard about this because I feel like that's just going to be a huge deal for a lot of these longtime Star Wars fans that remember that when it first came out. I'm very excited that we're re-releasing Jabba with a vinyl cape.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. Pretty cool. The most
that
rare
is
Star
funny.
Wars story ever.
It's very funny. So anyway, I put a poll out after that release, and it said, will you be getting all 12 of the Hasbro 40th anniversary Star Wars figures? And 87% said no. I guess that's kind of a tough answer because to probably maybe get some, but not all. I said all 12.
A lot of money, I'm sure.
I probably should have said, are you getting any? But let us know if you're getting any.
Yeah.
I really want all 12. I really do.
Yeah.
So real quick, the 12, I'll just say Obi-Wan, Stormtrooper, Tusken Raider, Luke, Leia, Death Star Operator, Han, Jawa, Vader, R2, 3PO, and Chewbacca are the original 12 that were released. Well, actually, not Death Star, is Death Squad Commander is what it's called. Death Squad Commander, Tusken Raider, and it's funny because in the original series, oh, never mind. So this is Black Series. So it's basically the Black Series line because some of these characters have already been released in the Black Series, but this is a different backing or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's saying 3PO is getting a wide release because originally his Black Series figure was a Walgreens exclusive. So now these are all going to be released wide. But awesome. But the Black Series figures are awesome figures. So anyway, well, man, if they're at Celebration, I'm going to have to
Get that and just put it on a little your little
shelving back there. Yeah. Got a little. Yeah, we'll show. I got to take a picture of that. Yeah. It's amazing once I start organizing, thinking like how much stuff I actually have. But anyway, all right, let's get into some. Because of Rebels, I guess we're focusing on Agent Kallus.
Yes. And I was trying to think I remember them saying like a full name for Agent Kallus, but no. So in this, it just says Agent Kallus, no first name or last name. Kallus, I guess, is his last name. I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I thought I could have sworn they said a first name somewhere, but maybe they didn't. Anywho, Agent Kallus so far his only appearances in Rebels, and we'll see if he's. It'd be cool to see him in other eras, like the earlier eras. But homeworld is Coruscant. I'm born and raised on Coruscant. So his code name, Agent Kallus' code name is ISB-021. And as we already said, the ISB is the Imperial Security Bureau, which is essentially a spy organization, a secret police organization, and they're charged with monitoring loyalty to the Empire and stamping out all signs of dissent. So they try to find spies, and they try to find people who would eventually become rebels of the Empire and get rid of them. One of the characters from Aftermath, I don't know if you've come across him yet, his name is Sinjir, if that's how they pronounce it in the audiobook.
Yes. Yeah.
He was a former ISB agent of the Empire, and there's actually an ISB liaison card in the trading card game. But so he's part of the ISB, and his whole charge in the show, his duty is basically to find and capture, get rid of the Lothal rebels. That was kind of his whole thing, at least in season 1, and I mean season 2 and 3 as well, obviously, because he's going after the same group of rebels. But he is tasked with at first going after the Lothal rebels. And this profile here only covers season 1, because this book came out, the Ultimate Star Wars book by DK, came out when season 1 just came out, or season 1 had close to being completed. So it obviously doesn't have how he now in the show is become a rebel agent in a way. He's now Fulcrum, and that's kind of what we left off in this past episode, is that he's Fulcrum, and he kind of stayed with the Empire to try to get more information for the rebels. But we will see then if Thrawn actually will destroy him in a way, kill him, and find. He kind of knows that he's Fulcrum, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So Agent Kallus, another cool thing it talks about here, which I guess I would like to see. It was talked about in his episode with Zeb when they were stranded on the Geonosis. I guess that was a moon of Geonosis, or Geonosis itself. I can't remember, but how he was part of basically the sacking of Lasan, and he had a hand in wiping out a lot of the Lasats, which is one reason why Zeb obviously hates him, because he killed a lot of his people. It was talked about a little bit in season 1, and then that episode in season 2 when he was stranded with Zeb. But I would like to see that storyline of Zeb's people, the Lasats, being, wiped out. That kind of the sacking of Lasan and Kallus having a huge hand in that. I would like to see that story and see how that unfolded. But yeah, that is Agent Kallus for you, voiced by I know his last name because he has a cool last name. Let me find his David Oyelowo. That's right. Who's actually a huge actor. Going pretty right now. He's done a lot of big things. So there you go.
Okay, so in my book, absolutely everything you need to know, a little bit more on ISB. Well, first off, Kallus's ISB code number was 021.
Yep.
And top 6 ISB branches. Surveillance, analyzes data for potential threats. Interrogation, claims to have a 95% success rate in discovering useful data from questioned suspects. Re-education, brainwashes suspects to support the Empire. Enforcement, special operations units act as backup for field agents. Investigation, uses data to suppress rebel activity. And internal affairs, searches for traitors within the Imperial ranks. So those are the 6 branches. Real funny Q&A here thing, too. It's weird that that's in here, but it says, how many ISB agents does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know. How many?
2. 1 to remove it, another to accuse the first of disloyalty.
Oh.
And there's a parentheses here, a common joke among Imperial intelligence agents.
Is it, though?
Yeah, I know, right?
Do they say that?
Yeah. All right.
That's the only joke they have, and they say it all the time.
All right, there we go. Thanks for listening, everybody. Inside the Force, InsideTheForce.com. Go check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And follow Casey at Kryptonian1138. I am at dcottingham21 on Twitter. We are going to be obviously in celebration as we keep talking about. So we are working on ways to actually we'll let you know, possibly some live shows, maybe. We'll see. We'll try. We'll see what we can on the way down, especially we got a long trip on the way down.
Yes. Dang.
So maybe we'll do something like that. We'll let you know, though. We're going to work on some stuff. So anyway, thanks for checking us out. We'll be back here next week reviewing a brand new episode of Rebels, as well as whatever news comes out in the Star Wars galaxy. For Casey Cooley.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Obi-Wan
Kenobi. Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
Don't trust them. Very good. Very good.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll be back here next week. He's Casey.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm Dave Cottingham, and may the Force be with you.
This has been a production of the 21 Network. For more great podcasts, visit 21network.com. To view additional content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/21network. Follow us on Twitter at 21network for the latest news and updates. The 21 Network, for the fan and all of us.